a parking validation announcement. Anyone parking for this meeting or using the bus can pick up passes from security on their way out or now, and it will be valid for today only. Ethics reminder to the board. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the board, all county commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any member of the board today? Also, does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before this board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote. We move to our consent agenda, and first, does anyone from the public have any questions or comments about our consent agenda? Mr. Nutter, you have a question about the consent agenda?
No, I just have public comment.
Yes, we're going to do our consent agenda, and you are first up on our public comment. All right, with no questions, do we have any additions to the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I have
Yes.
one. The letter we discussed at our briefing in response to Prismatic's school consolidation study that's been drafted and in the hands of the clerk presently, I would move to seek consent of this board to add it to our consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. I do think we have one small edit to make to that on the very last sentence. It should read, it does not. It would not be likely to lead to improved student outcomes. Are we okay with that? All right, everyone.
Okay.
We have approval for the consent agenda with the addition. Second?
Aye.
Sloan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we're going to move to public comment. And this is the time limit for individual comment to the board is 3 minutes. Before you begin speaking, please state your name. If your time expires, you may leave your question along with your name, address, and phone number with the county manager. Board members are not expected to comment on any matters during public comment. This is your time to speak to us. The board reserves the right to deny public address on any subject previously presented to the board during the same meeting. And David Nutter is our first commenter this evening. Good evening.
Madam Chair, County Manager, Commissioners, and staff. I am David Nutter, a city and county planner by training and civically active as chairman of the Advocacy and Partnerships Committee of Connect Buncombe. We of Connect Buncombe as advocates for greenways, which are also our key waterways and increasingly our prime waterfront revitalization areas, are grateful for the fine work that Buncombe County has been doing on recovery and rebuilding in the wake of the tragic Helene disaster. As attested to by the 2007 Flood Damage Reduction Task Force report, your 2009 Flood Damage Protection Ordinance, and the 2023 Our Voices, Our Vision, Buncombe County 2043 Comprehensive Plan, Hazards and Resilience chapter. You have prepared as best possible in accordance with the knowledge of the time. But the time has changed and nature has turned on us. It will probably not turn back. In terms of future long-term active protections, we think this is a good beginning, but not the whole story. In terms of implementation adjustment to plans, codes, and ordinances, we think the job has just begun. We therefore hope you will do further work to make these and additional elements into invaluable working tools for water management in this time of radical climate change. We propose that we need to also look at additional land use planning and design to fully address water management disaster planning for flood hazard areas in future years, now needing to be based on 500-year flood levels. We believe the land use and related planning adjustments we need should address density of development and use regulations, which will enable us to slow the destructive velocity and trajectory of flooding that will most likely occur, and together with increased permeability, adjusted elevational design standards, and riparian buffers, to name a few, create climate resilience to protect the lives of our people, the protection of our properties, and the survival and expansion of our economy. We understand the difficulty of this part of the challenge before us and respect the hard work and public engagement it will require. We do think, however, that we must do this in order to build back better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. And our second person is Peter Thorworth. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Great. Nice to see you this evening, Peter.
It's nice to see one and all of you, and Happy New Year. I've been out of town. I've been in New Zealand and Australia. They all send their best. So I'm here actually briefly to bring to your attention something I've brought up before, and I'm going to persevere on bringing to the county and the commissioner's attention, and that is the issue of engine braking. So when a large truck wants to slow down and doesn't want to tax its brakes, they press a button and it goes like this. Boom, 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 boom. We've all seen it. We've all experienced it. Where I live, which is New Leicester Highway at Mount Carmel, it happens very, very often. And I can swear to you, it happens as late as 3 a.m. at night. And it's not something you only hear if you're 10 feet away or 20 feet away. It's something you might hear a quarter of a mile away. And it lasts a lot longer than my little demonstration. So just want you to give that some thought. I know recovery from Helene is certainly priority number one, but this is a serious quality of life issue for people in that area. I posted just a quick inquiry on nextdoor.com about this issue, and within an hour today, right away got back something from North Asheville and someone else in a different part of the of Buncombe County who immediately agreed that that wakes them up at night, that upsets their kids. It can be so loud that you could be side by side with someone having a conversation and you would have to put your conversation on pause until that was over. Places like Lake Lure have that posted. It says engine braking prohibited. So I hope to follow up on that. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Peter. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak that did not sign up? Yes, please join us and state your name. And you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Josh Kelly. I'm a resident of Asheville, and I'm here representing Mountain True, a local environmental organization. And I'm here to speak in favor of a proposed resolution supporting Endangered Species Act listing for the eastern hellbender. For those of you unfamiliar with the hellbender, it is a salamander that is native to our clean, large streams and rivers. It can grow up to 30 inches long. It's also known by the affectionate names of snot otter and lasagna lizard, and it's quite a unique animal. Unfortunately, the hellbender, which is ancient and goes back millions of years in the fossil record, is under severe threat from water quality challenges, and those threats have only grown greater with Hurricane Helene. In the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, hundreds of hellbenders have been found deceased along local rivers. And this led to a very rapid not petition for listing, but a proposal for listing by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Listing could have a very beneficial effect of providing resources for habitat restoration and protection in our region. And as you all know, our Western North Carolina waters and streams are very important and special to everyone in the region, for drinking water, for recreation, for our spiritual well-being. Many of us were baptized in those streams. And protecting the hellbender is just an emblem of our commitment to those waters. And not only that, but our commitment to the future, and to a future where an animal that has been alive on Earth for millions and millions of years will continue to thrive, hopefully, with our stewardship. Thank you for your consideration, and thanks for having that on the agenda.
Thanks, Josh. We do have a presentation this evening. Melissa Moore, the Finance Director, is here to provide more information on the fiscal year 2025 Quarter 2 financials. Good evening, Melissa.
Good evening. So the financial update this evening will be through the second quarter. So that'll be through the end of December, which will be halfway through our fiscal year. So the report this evening will cover the general fund, our solid waste fund, which were our primary operating funds, and an update on the county's capital projects. So we look at the revenue for the general fund. Again, 50% through the fiscal year. Year-to-date actuals are $263.4 million. This represents 53.2% of our adopted budget. And it is 4.2% decrease over where we were this time prior year. We look at our ad valorem tax. We have received through the end of December 66% of the budgeted revenue. This is 3% less than where we were in prior year for property tax. For our sales tax, keep in mind, sales tax is on a 3-month delay. So the sales tax that we've received through the December is through September, which would only represent the first few days of the hurricane. So sales tax, we've received 24% of our budgeted revenue. Through September, it also represents a 3% decline where we were this time prior year. And those represent the primary revenue to date. Look at our expenditures. Year-to-date, $213.3 million. This represents 48% of our adopted budget, and it's a 3% increase over the prior year. You look at our expenditures by category. We look at the same numbers, but when we look at our salaries and benefits, this is 6.7% higher than we were this time in prior year at $96 million. This also represents 45% of the budgeted amounts for salaries and expenditures, which are the largest expenditure category. Shifting to our solid waste fund, year-to-date actuals for revenue for our solid waste fund are $7.7 million. This is tracking higher than where we were this time last year, which is a 23.8% increase. Primary revenue sources would be from our landfill and our transfer station for those services. Looking at our expenditures for solid waste, our year-to-date actual is $6.5 million. This represents a 5.6% increase where we were this time last year. We look at the county's capital projects. Our year-to-date actuals are $5 million. The life-to-date actuals spend against the adopted projects are 56.8. Some of the projects that represent the $5 million in spend are the Fleet and General Services Complex. That project through the end of December was 44% complete. We also have some renovations and work being done at 35 Woodfin, as well as 35 Woodfin 911 Backup Center. We have some additions, renovations and repairs identified in our facility studies for our detention center of about $700,000. Those are some of the primary costs within the year-to-date actuals. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions for Melissa?
I don't have a question, but I did just want to share that I really appreciate the net county costs that you did in the full document and how you're breaking that down that's very useful with pulling out the state and federal funding to be able to give us a real sense of where specifically the county funding is going and being prioritized.
All right. Anything else? Yes. Yes. Yes, the full document is incredibly helpful. Thank you so much, Melissa, to you and your team. We appreciate it. And I don't think we have a county manager's report, no old business, and no public hearings this evening. We do have several new business items, and our first is a resolution in support of the Eastern Hellbenders Endangered Listing. Commissioner Sloan requested this at the January 21st briefing meeting and will provide more information on the background. Commissioner Sloan?
Real quick, and turn my microphone on. So on December 12th, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife announced a proposal to list the eastern hellbender as an endangered species, thus kicking off this public comment period. There's been a few other jurisdictions, including the town of Boone and a couple other local governments outside of North Carolina that have provided resolutions. And so I put this together to kind of in support of them. And as you probably know, the eastern hellbender is one of only 3 giant salamanders on the planet. And historically, its population has included around 626 groups. I'm not actually sure how many salamanders exist in a group, but around roughly that number, and they're down to about 59%. So like we've lost roughly half of the eastern hellbenders, and they're a really cool creature, and they exist really only in the streams and rivers of the southern Appalachians. And so I wanted to put this resolution forward in support and have the clerk send on our support to the appropriate federal government agencies.
Are there any questions for Commissioner Sloan regarding the resolution? If not, do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
I would like to make the motion that we approve the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Ball.
I'll second it.
And Commissioner Sloan has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes unanimously. Thank you for your work.
And just a fun fact, hellbenders actually breathe through their pores, and they're a sign of our water quality and health. So I'm excited to see us protecting this unique creature.
Thank you for that. I think we all just had a science lesson. Science and finance, and now I think we're moving on to a budget amendment for North Carolina Hurricane Disaster Recovery Fund Award for Public Health. And John Hudson, our budget director, is joining us with more information. Good evening, John.
Good evening. The state is dispersing $2,166,210 of Hurricane Helene disaster relief funding to restore essential public health services in the wake of the disaster. These funds may be used through 2030, and initially a portion of this funding will be used to ensure delivery of school nursing services and animal shelter services as originally budgeted. Health and Human Services will confer with the state for further guidance on the acceptable uses of this revenue stream.
Thank you, John. This is incredibly exciting to hear. I know as difficult decisions around the budget have been made because of our revenues right now, we heard that a lot of folks were really concerned about the loss of school nurses. I know the animal shelter had reached out multiple times with their concerns, and I am grateful to see funds starting to flow so we can replenish those important services to our community members. And are there any further questions?
I will just second that this is excellent
This is great news.
And I'm happy to make the motion to approve the budget amendment.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Wells. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Horton seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget amendment passes unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
And our last item of new business is the FTA Section 5307 funding rescission for FY26. And William High is joining us with more information.
Good
evening,
evening.
William.
This is a follow-up from our briefing 2 weeks ago. Once again, there are roughly $864,000 in federal transit funds that we have proposed to be rescinded to the city of Asheville from 2 different grant lines, which you can see here. And that request is made with the following conditions, both that this be done in support of the New Leicester Highway Extension and the Route 170 for the next fiscal year, that the city will not pursue further 5310 funding, a separate federal transit fund in the next year, and to evaluate route changes for both our Trailblazer route to help assist there and to evaluate trip frequency increases for the S3 and S6, which serve South Asheville. And with that in mind, thought there was another slide.
I guess, oh, sorry. I just have one question around I guess, functionally, the last two bullets, I'm supportive, but one involves our system and the other involves their system, right? So
Correct.
we're giving them money for that purpose in both counts?
So the last two are actually requests that we made for the current fiscal year, but they have not yet been completed. And so we've just included them here in the absence of further requests because they haven't been completed yet. They are the city is working to do that, but
Okay.
just simply hasn't finished.
Just putting it on, okay, that makes sense.
This is more a question for our county manager, but can we get an update on what the increased trip frequency for the S3 and S6 looks like? Because that's a really interesting and exciting opportunity to those of us who live in South Asheville.
That's your question for William.
Oh, okay.
I believe
This is a study. Go ahead.
the city is attempting to accomplish that through their currently proposed or about to begin operations analysis. That's also true for the other element for the Trailblazer, that those would be studied therein. I believe at this point the S6, and I'm not certain of this for the S3, operates at about a 90-minute frequency. So whereas most of the other routes leave every hour.
Well, I would love to stay on top of that. I'm curious because I've talked to many of my neighbors who are from other places or started using public transportation in light of Helene and other reasons. And it was fascinating to try to ride that bus and get to work on time. It's not particularly easy to do if you're trying to get to work at 9 and you're on a 90-minute schedule. That tends to be a very difficult thing to navigate if you have kids, families. So I'd love to see how that goes, and please let us know what we can do to support further.
Thank you. That's one of the reasons why we ran it back this year, because it was on last year and it wasn't completed, so we want to keep a focus on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for William? Can we pull the motion slide back up, please?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Commissioner Wells, seconded by Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
Motion
Kurt, just to make sure we did the right mechanism there, does a motion to approve suffice for a motion to rescind? Are those effectively the same thing? Because that's technically what this is.
In the
Okay,
affirmative.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, William. We appreciate you being here with us this evening. We do have 2 reappointments to make for our Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. I believe that information has been updated for us since our last meeting.
I'll start by saying thank you, Sarah, for rectifying that so quickly and putting up with me being a detail snob. And with that, I will go ahead and nominate Don Johnson and Andy Bovaski for reappointment to JCPC.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Whiteside, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you all. And I do believe we have a need for a closed session this evening, Mr. Euler.
We do. I would need a motion that the Board of Commissioners go into a closed session for the following reason: to consult with an attorney employed by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, to receive legal advice regarding Executive Order 14159, protecting the American people from invasion. There will be no formal action taken after the closed session. The statutory authority is contained in General Statute 143-318-11, subparagraph A3.
I have a point of order question.
Yes.
I had one question for staff before we make that motion. Is now an appropriate time?
Yeah, sure.
So I just want to ask staff if we're going to be able, there's been a lot of questions about FCC coming into our inboxes and a lot of questions in the community. And our staff has done a great job, Dane and the solid waste team. I want to just check and see if we're going to be able to get FCC to come and present to us at an upcoming meeting, because I think a lot of folks in the community, it's been a bit of a rocky transition and a lot of folks still have questions. And so I'd love to be able to ask that among FCC at an upcoming meeting.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Ball.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Moore, second, Whitesides. We are, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are in closed session. As Mr. Euler said, we do not anticipate taking any further action this evening, so we will adjourn from closed session.
You might want to do the announcements now so that then
you.
people don't have to stay and wait for you.
Yes, we
to
do
come
have
back.
one announcement before we move into our official closed session, and the next briefing and regular meeting will be held on February 18th in the Commission chambers. We'll have our agenda briefing at 3 p.m. and our regular Board of Commissioners meeting at 5 p.m. Thank you. We are in closed session.